Welcome back to Parent Squad. According to the NIH, research shows that alcohol use and misuse among women is increasing. And that same research shows that alcohol use can also have a more severe impact and cause serious damage to women's bodies more than men. Not to mention all the social and emotional impacts of consuming this drug. So here to share more of her journey is author of Freely Sober, Rethinking Alcohol Through the Lens of Faith, Ericka Andersen. Thank you for coming.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I saw the title of this book and then I saw that you were also an Indianapolis mom. I said, what a brave woman to write this book. I thought that was so amazing. Can you first describe your experience with alcohol and just what your life was like when you were drinking alcohol?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reason that Freely Sober will resonate with so many people is because I have a life that looks like a lot of women's lives in Indiana and other places across the United States. But yeah, I grew up and I started drinking just like at high school parties, just for fun, never thinking that that was going to turn into something that would be detrimental to my health and to my well-being. And so over time in my 20s, as I became a young mom, it just became something I increasingly relied on. But I was what you would call sort of a high bottom drinker or a high functioning drinker, where no one knew. No one said a word to me. No one had any idea that I was struggling sort of in the darkness alone because I was keeping it to myself and I didn't think I was supposed to have a problem because people drink all the time and you know, you're a mom, drink to de-stress, you're told you deserve it. And so I just kept going along in this very oppressive cycle. And I didn't know how to break out of it because I didn't know how to tell someone I was struggling.
Yes.
I almost felt like I didn't qualify enough to have a problem because I wasn't hitting a so-called rock bottom.
Yes, yes. And we all have this picture of what we think alcoholism looks like, or addiction, or alcohol problem, because it's kind of a spectrum thing. We all have this idea of what that would look like. And you may or may not picture a man or someone sloppily going about life. And that was not you. You were high functioning, as you said. So how did you decide that drinking was a problem for you? And let's paint the picture too. So your kids are 7 and 10 now, a boy and a girl. Around what age do you feel like you kind of noticed something was off, or at least wanted to explore life without alcohol?
Yeah, well, I'll be honest and say I never felt like my relationship with alcohol was great. Like even before I had kids, it always felt like, something's a little off with this, but you know, I'm not going to do anything about this because I'm in my 20s and I'm having fun.
This is what people do.
This is what people do. So, you know, again, if I'm not rock bottom, why am I trying to solve this problem? But once I did have kids, and I would say by the time my daughter was 6 months old, I was starting to see, okay, I really have increased how much I'm drinking. It's starting to become a truly daily thing. And it's not just one glass of wine. It's maybe 2 glasses, maybe 3 glasses, maybe the entire bottle. And if I tell myself that I'm not going to drink the next day, I would find myself drinking the next day anyway. And then waking up in a panic in the middle of the night feeling like, I don't have control over this. I told myself I wasn't going to do this, and yet I almost feel like I didn't even decide to do it anyway. And it just sort of felt like I was kind of losing control, and I needed to take action. Although at the time I was like, how is this going to be? How can I do this? I don't know how to step out of this, and I'm embarrassed to admit it and ask for help.
Yeah, I imagine it was a tough conclusion to come to.
Yeah.
It's 6 months. I think all the parents understand the pressure that comes with that, because that is not an easy age, as really any of the ages are, but certainly being a new mom. So what did you do to try and gain a handle on your situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with Googling. I think many people that were in my position just start Googling, am I an alcoholic? Or how do I moderate? Or any of those sort of things. So many people will resonate with having sent those Google searches. And so it started there, and I started sort of trying to do it on my own. And that didn't go so well. It didn't last so long. I tried to do dry January, any of those 30-day stints, sober September, all of that. And even if I could make it 30 days, it kind of felt like hanging there, like just get to the end, but never anything afterwards. And so it wasn't until I started really reading books about this. I read This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. That was a pivotal book for me. And I started reading memoirs from people who had gone through this. And then ultimately I joined a community of people online where there were support meetings. And that was a real turning point for me. And it was when I actually started to make progress and feel like it was possible to get out of this cycle of drinking.
Yeah. And where was your family in all of this? I don't know if your husband is around or if you have a partner around.
Yeah.
Where did they come into play with this?
Yeah, I mean, my husband, he wouldn't have even told you that I had a problem. He came, actually, his background is that he came from a very alcoholic home. And so for me to say I had a problem, you know, he saw something that was much more of a problem, so he didn't sort of see my problem as that much of a problem. So I really had to personally decide, for me, this isn't the way that I want to live. But he was very supportive. Friends were very supportive, family very supportive. I do come from a family that, you know, there's drinking on the holidays, things like that. And so people kind of were just like, yeah, I'm proud of you, like, good job. Not really for me necessarily, but it was good to have that support system.
Yeah, just because it's so tough because alcohol is a drug, but it's everywhere. It is one of the legal drugs that exist. And so it is we just had the Super Bowl not too long ago. So it's at the Super Bowl party. I mean, it's at the functioning, the anniversary party or the Valentine's Day gathering. I mean, it's just such a big part of our society in America. So it's, how do you stop something that's literally everywhere? And, you know, depending on the timeline or who you're with, your circle, it could or could not be, you know, some shame around not consuming. I do like to think that many people have evolved past that these days because people do not consume for a variety of reasons,
Right.
but you never know.
Yeah.
So I love that your book speaks so openly about your faith and your conflict with consuming alcohol, which is what I felt like made it different too, your story different too, because it added another layer on it, and you just kind of wearing your faith on your sleeve in this walk.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that played a role in your story?
Sure, yeah. Like I said, I've read so many sobriety memoirs and I love them all. I'm a big fan of consuming them. I love to read all of the books about this, but the one thing that was missing for me was the element of faith. And as a Christian, this is really important to me. And I just thought if I had seen a book like this in the beginning stages of trying to figure this out, I would have, you know, grabbed it in a second, but there wasn't anything. And so as a writer, I knew as I began this sobriety journey, I'm going to be writing about this. So I got a piece in the New York Times about it, and that sort of spurred my my thinking that this could be a book. And so, you know, my faith is every part of who I am. And so certainly in getting sober, that played a huge role. And I know there's so many women out there that feel the same way, and they also feel a little bit alienated with some of the stuff that's out there. I don't put anything against that stuff. That was helpful to me. But, you know, as a person of faith, you want that element. And so I also wanted to make it more, less shameful for a woman of faith to come forward and say, I have a problem with this. Because it almost feels like it's harder because you have sort of a reputation to uphold if you're a person in your church or something like that.
If
so that
you
was
wear
the
your
other
faith on your sleeve,
Right.
and it's outward,
You feel
people
like-
are expecting you to show up a certain kind
Or
of way.
they'll call you a hypocrite or judge your motherhood. That was another one that was huge for me. So I just wanted to say, hey, it's okay. You're not alone, and you can walk through this with your faith intact and with other people who can support you.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because that's the whole entire idea behind being a person of faith, or specifically a Christian. You are supposed to be imperfect and have issues and have things
Right.
that you're working on. That's why we're all here.
Exactly.
What's your message to the person who might identify with your alcohol journey, but not so much your faith walk?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much in this book that applies to both sides of that. I think if this resonates to you, if your interest is piqued and you're thinking, this is like, I kind of want to listen in here, to follow that curiosity. I mean, the whole point of why I titled this Freely Sober is that this is a choice that you can make. It's not something that you're compelled to do. It's something that you can educate yourself on and decide that you want something different. Freely, without feeling like someone's telling you have to get sober or this is the way you need to live your life. You may just find out when you walk into these rooms, when you read these books, that you actually want this. It's not just something that you need to do. And when we give ourselves that freedom to choose, it really changes the whole mindset and the whole trajectory around it. And I couldn't have done it if I didn't feel like I had a choice. And so you have a choice to follow your curiosity learn a little bit, and just be open to whatever that is that it brings you to.
I think that is a very unassuming approach, which can possibly help a lot of people. We're not saying you are making this decision right here, right now, unless you want to, but you can. But let's start by just educating ourselves on the issue and finding other people's walk and see how they managed and how hopefully it turned out positive for them. I like that idea.
Yeah, open your mind to the idea and see what happens without giving yourself any expectations.
In the book, you used the term sober curious. What does that mean?
Yeah, sober curious, kind of what we were just saying, is just being interested in what it might mean to be sober. What does it look like? Why would you do it? It's not just necessarily if you're a person that feels like you have an addiction or a problem. It's also for the health of your body. I mean, we're seeing so much in the news right now about wellness trends of sobriety and how alcohol is very toxic to our bodies physically. It's toxic physically, mentally, and spiritually, if you ask me. And so if you're interested in that sort of health side in all regards, like just get a little curious about it and learn something. Listen to a podcast, read a book, and you might be surprised what you decide that you think about it afterwards.
Yeah, certainly. All right, and then what's your message to the supporters? Maybe someone could be watching and they may think someone they know has an issue. How can they best support? Do you have any tips?
Right, yeah, I get that question a lot because there are people that, of course, they don't feel like they have a problem, but they have a loved one. I mean, there are millions of people in AA and in Al-Anon across the country, and so I think this book is actually a great place to start, simply because you kind of begin to understand your loved one and why and how they're going through what they are. If you can't understand anything about addiction at all, it's really hard to be there for someone. And once you do understand that, you're able to step up and be a friend and be a family member to someone and really be what they need once you get it. And so I would say if you go to freelysober.com, there's a lot of tips, there's a lot of ideas that you'll sort of be able to grow from. If you just check out the website and the book, it has all kinds of stuff in it.
So awesome. Yeah. Before we go, how are you now?
Yeah.
How's everything going with your family? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm over 5 years sober now, and I am all about my vitamins and my hydration and my water and my exercise. And I honestly I'm in that perimenopause phase of life, but I feel amazing. And I just don't think I would feel that way. It's like you start doing one thing to improve your health and your mental well-being, and all of these other things start to follow. And I feel healthier than I ever thought I could.
Yeah.
So I would just say, that's the cherry on top of feeling free from sort of the cycle I was in.
I am just inspired. Thank you so much. I'm so happy for you, and I'm hoping that somebody else out there is inspired. Maybe your mountain that you're climbing is this. Maybe it's something else. Hopefully you're inspired to certainly tackle it and take some good steps towards it in the new year. Thank you. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for sharing your story and just being a really strong mom.
Thank you so much.
It's awesome.
Appreciate it.
So we've got more info about her book, Freely Sober, Rethinking Alcohol Through the Lens of Faith. We put more info at WTHR.com/Parent Squad. Still ahead, the calendar may still say winter, but it's time to get those summer camps lined up for the kids. The City Moms are here to help.